Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now. Okay, so everybody came here to listen to me pontificate about community, right? Yes. The problem is that I'm not much of a speaker. I'm more of a talker. That's a disclaimer. So feel free to ask questions at any point during this whole thing, whatever it is. And the reason why I say that is because most presenters would keep Q&A to the end of their presentation. Then there's no time, or get rushed, and you don't get your question answered. And most people will come to a session because they have questions. They want to know more. And specifically, I guess the topic, at least according to the live video that I have rolling behind me, is community. And I also have a chat room down here. Who knows what we're doing? He's setting up. No hick. Good luck, Chris. So did I miss it? Here he goes. Of course, it's a little lag. It's the internet. Things aren't in real time. But I've got a community right now of, I don't know how many people are in the chat room at this point. I'd be curious to know. I don't know if it's voiced. It may very well be. But I know, I can tell you, assuredly, there are, see, I'm practicing ballet here by standing on one leg in the air. Oh, you thought I was funny? Was that funny? I'm not really a ballet dancer. It's just something I do on the side. 450 people are watching this right now. And a few minutes ago, they were actually watching my empty chair in my home office in Seattle, Washington. This is a community. It's a community, I guess, of geeks. There are 451 viewers, 226 people in the chat room. So all I had to do was ask. Crowdsourcing at its best. Now, not everybody has the ability to live stream. You kind of need some things like an internet connection, a webcam, and a microphone. So, yeah. I don't know if anybody has that equipment. You may have it with you. You may not. It can be kind of pricey, but you can do it. In fact, your laptop may very well have everything that you need. A microphone, a webcam, and potentially an internet connection. So, this is a community. What kind of community? Well, it's a gathering of people, and that's really what a community is, right? Community has certainly evolved over the years. Now, I may not look it, but I've been online since 1992. So, in some cases, I've been around on the internet longer than some people have been alive. Well, ballet, does that make you happy? I'm trying. Community, to me, when I first got online, was in the form of a bulletin board system, or a BBS. We used to have to telnet into a place where hundreds of people would be online at any given time. And you could hit a key, and you could see who was online and where they were coming in from, which university, or maybe a .com. This is, again, early 90s. And you could actually communicate with these people in real time. You could just hit another key, and it was actually the X key. I still remember that. And you could communicate with them directly. You say, hey, what's going on there? Or, hey, I know you, you're in my math class. And I'm sure this is completely distracting you, isn't it? This is why I tend to ignore the chat room throughout the day so I get stuff done. But I like keeping it up here because it's good to have a back channel. They keep me straight. But I could communicate with people in real time thanks to this thing called the internet. Wow, did you see that spittle? Like, I totally did. The spotlight's so bright, the spittle just went like that. It's great. Oh, well, it was there. I swear it was there, and then it's gone. Just like an internet connection sometimes. So, even back when we didn't have graphics, we didn't have anything to click on, we could still, well, in a way, click on each other. I guess that sounded better in my mind than it did actually when I said it aloud. But we came together through this common, it wasn't really a website, but it was a site, it was a place on the internet. Because there really wasn't a lot to do on the internet. I mean, you could finger Coke machines and find out how much Diet Coke was left or how much Sprite was left. You can still, I think, do that. I think that Coke machine is still online. Have you ever seen the finger tool inside of Mac OS X? And I think the protocol, or you can probably download utility for Windows and certainly Linux, and finger addresses out on the internet, and they may give you a response. Well, there was a Coke machine that would tell you how much it had left in it. Why did we care? The web wasn't around, right? We had nothing to do but talk to each other and finger Coke machines. This was enjoyable. And we talked about, doing this. This was our daily activity. What did you do today? This is what I did. So, even without these rich experiences, we were making rich experiences because we were connecting with one another. And in this BBS of sorts that we were able to telnet into, using our keyboard and the internet connection, there can only be 200 of you online at one time, because it can only handle so much. So if you get in there too late, there are 200 people, you go in the queue, and you have to wait until other people get offline before you can get into the BBS to talk to all your friends who are in that BBS. You had to wait. That's it. You check the email. You could do that too online. Send emails back and forth between friends. That's about it. So even with these basic connections, we were making solid connections. And it's still very much the same way today. I mean, granted, definitely years beyond those days. By the way, that BBS ISCA is still around. There's still a large amount of participation. Still, it's run pretty much the same way as it was way back when. Still forums, still people that you can communicate with, even though it sounds like I can't communicate right now. But now it's just a ball. We've got more tools. More people are online. There's certainly a greater awareness of what this internet thing is. Back then, you were special if you knew how to do this. You were a geek. Now, you can be anything, and if you're not online, where are you? Having an email address is almost as important as having like a snail mail address. Isn't that fun to say, snail mail? I always thought it was. Helps separate the two. But the connections that we make with one another are still the same. And people ask me, quite often, how do you start community? It's a difficult question to answer. Community starts on its own. It just grows. It's organic. It doesn't just, come out of thin air because someone mandated that it comes out of thin air. You can't just set something up and expect things to grow. It just happens, sometimes in the oddest places. Sometimes around events, sometimes around affinity, sometimes around locale. And when people ask, well, what do you need to start a community? And you'd expect me to say something like, oh, you need forum software, and you need a blog, and you need a... I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say it's not important, but I'm not going to say that. Because the best community tools out there are the kind that can't be built. You can't write software that helps you build community. The best tools for community actually exist inside your head, and inside your heart, and inside your soul. And that's the reason, because it's kind of tied into the whole passion thing, that's the reason why a contrived community usually doesn't make it that far. I mean, granted, if you've got a groundswell of people that are, interested or coming to one particular website or what have you, there's a community there. It's already there. It's just it doesn't have the tools necessarily to communicate with one another, and could always use more tools. Because that's all a blog is. That's all a forum is. That's all a newsletter is just a tool. That's it. And if you think that's a community, then you're a tool. Don't take offense to that. I wasn't waiting for the hi-hat there. Well, but I hear that so often, and it's just not true. Because if that was the case, then, just setting up a blog means that you have a community. Well, but if no one reads your blog, does it really exist? That's a good question. Like, what's the sound of one hand clapping? But that's not the point. Some people blog because they think it's helping them get things off their mind. They want to share their ideas and perspectives. Some people do it because they want to be heard by other people, and then when they're not heard by other people, they're disappointed. Because there's a lot of stuff going on out there. There's a lot of places that you can be inside a community. And I've always equated it, and I may have to step back because you may not be familiar with the term, but it's a perfect term for what community is. Everybody in here is a walking Venn diagram. V-E-N-N. Or who is not familiar with what a Venn diagram is? Oh, okay. You don't have a clue. Okay, it's fine. Say you've got, you're yourself. Think of yourself like right here. And you live in Arizona. So here's one bubble, one part of the bubble. But you also like drinking coffee. So you sit right in the middle of the intersection between Arizona, this particular segment, and drinking coffee. Well, you exist in the middle, but then you also maybe like reading comic books, and then you also hate wearing lanyards. And all of a sudden, all these different layers come on top of you, but you're still in the middle. That's still very much you. And there's other points at which there may be people who live in Arizona and drink coffee, but they do like wearing lanyards. So they've got some things in common with you, but not everything in common with you, but you're still in the center. And wherever you go is where community exists. community isn't everybody, it's you. It's wherever you go. That's why it's so difficult to pinpoint. Because whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on MySpace, whether you choose not to involve yourself with any social network out there, you're still a walking community. And community used to be something where you really couldn't get much further than maybe the edge of your city. It was relegated to locality because we didn't have strong communication tools. And now we do, the internet. I've got more in common, and I say this all the time, I've got more in common with someone who lives in Ireland than I do with my next door neighbor. It's absolutely true. We share a greater amount of affinities. He happens to like Star Trek more than I do, but we're still geeks. We get into arguments, Mac versus PC, and he's an IT administrator, and I make his life hell. But we communicate online in real time. I can't say every day, but we just use a technology called Ventrilo. It's usually used by gamers, low latency, high quality audio. Some people say, well, why not use Skype? Because Skype quality is, it's not very good for ad hoc communications, especially for distributed teams. Much like you might find with gaming if you're into World of Warcraft. You may already use Ventrilo or something like that, TeamSpeak sometimes. There's a few others. So with the idea of community just being in oneself and you being wherever you are, you're making these connections with other people. Because remember, they're at the center of their own Venn diagram. And there's times where your Venn diagram may look like somebody else's. You may have a similar profile. You may be a lot like somebody else. Are they being crazy over here?
Only one or two funny things.
They're what? I don't know what they're. I'm not exactly sure what they're. Critics?
Cretins.
Oh, cretins? Yeah, I'm not surprised. That's the internet, see? You have to deal with trolls. Yes, I'm looking down at the chat room, unfortunately. That's part of community, though. Community is not all happy-go-lucky, fun, happy times. Think about all the times you've been caught in the middle of a flame war, dragged into the middle of a flame war. Have you? Have you started a flame war? I mean, like, you haven't been online. You're not in a community if there's not dissension in the ranks. We like lanyards. We don't like lanyards. Oh, yeah, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. One of the stupidest things. Happens in just about every community. So in terms of cultivating and growing this, it's a lot like growing a plant. You got to feed, water, you got to guide it. You got an idea about what it's going to be, but you have no idea which direction it's going to grow. That's community. There's times that you'll have an idea like, I want to create a community for Arizona roofers. Okay, well, is there enough interest? And if so, what's the critical mass? How many roofers are in Arizona that would be interested, or that this is where they live online? Are you going to ever reach that point, or is it just a dream? And maybe suddenly this roofing community that you put together for the state of Arizona happens to attract people who are more into tiling. Well, do you stop them from coming? You can't come to this website. Stop it. I'm tired of like hundreds of tilers coming to my roofing website. I don't want to talk about like floor tile. I want to talk about roofing. But yet they keep coming. And ignoring them is just crazy. The community is coming there for some reason or another. Whether you intended them to come there or not, people are coming. So sometimes, and it doesn't matter, hopefully you guys will pardon the various and sundry examples. I'm just saying it happens everywhere, anywhere, no matter the background or affinity. I mean, it's the internet. We got everything, right? Including these guys. There's so much happening these days that it's difficult to keep your attention focused for too long on any one thing. And community works much the same way. The ebb and flow of its participation, it's inevitable for any tool, whether it's an email discussion list, a forum, potentially a blog. And certainly the more people that have the opportunity to get one, well, the less chance of them coming to your community or going to a community where you happen to be in, because there's a lot of places to go. Where do you spend most of your time? In what communities, if you consider them communities at all? And if you step it back and think of yourself as a walking community, intersecting with other people, it becomes a little easier to deal with. There are times that a community leader will face an issue. Let's say it's a flame war. Let's say it's something that's happening. Someone did something that they shouldn't have done. You're going to have to decide what you're going to do about it. What do you do? someone's first instinct would be, admonish them. Kick them out. They're gone. They're not playing by the rules. And sometimes you kind of have to do that. But then there are other times that you can actually turn it into a positive experience for everybody. If they're acting like children, and they've done something wrong, say, well, you've kind of done the wrong thing. Let them decide. So, what would you like to do? How would you like to make this better? Because, you seem to be okay. You've helped out in other areas. How would you like to make this better? So, could you apologize, potentially? Okay. So then, with hopefully true contrite heart, they would apologize to the community. And is the community going to accept their apology? Well, if they're a good community, if they're a strong community, and they believe that person, yes, they will. And you don't have to take any administrative action at all. You're almost acting as a parent. And I'm not speaking from experience, because the only thing I'm a parent to is 2 dogs. They don't count. Although we do have to take corrective actions with them sometimes. It's not the same. So knowing that all these things are happening, how do you grab someone's attention long enough to get them to be interested in the things that you're doing? And I get this question phrased many different ways, including, how do I get more traffic to my blog? You have that question? Podcast. How do I get more people listening to my podcast? How can I get more people responding to my podcast? Well,
Don't suck.
precisely, don't suck, say things you're interested in. Sometimes it's as simple as asking a question. It's just that simple. Call to action. It's a simple call to action, asking a question. And also involving, certainly. I mean, I've seen a lot of publishers take content that was submitted by their audience, they're passionate for one reason or another, and close that connection between the producer and the consumer. Years ago, when I had just started doing what I started to do professionally online, which is just geeking out, quite honestly, I was in a electronics superstore. And at this point in time, I'd only been doing it for a year. And my parents really didn't understand what I was doing. I was on this internet thing, and I was sending out a newsletter and talking about technology things, software, internet websites, news. So I was interested in it, and of course selling ads around it. Didn't quite understand it though. So I was in an electronics superstore with my father one day, and he was in the back looking at something, can't remember what it was exactly, something for the car. And I was in the software aisle, and someone was holding on to a couple of titles, and they did the same thing. I think it was like some kind of system utility. He's looking very confused, like, which one do I get? And of course, I'm like, dude, this is my area. I didn't have a blue shirt on or anything. That would have been funny, oh, okay, so it was a giveaway, Best Buy. So I said, well, don't forget that one. It's no good. This version's no good. You want this one? He's like, oh, are you sure? Well, I've been debating it and kind of talked for a little while. He says, yeah. I said, well, if you have any problems setting it up, I've got some help here. So I handed him my business card, and he looked at it for a second. And he looked at me. And he looked at it again. He looked at me. He says, this is you? And I'm thinking, what? Did I hand out my dad's business card? I said, yeah, it's me. Yeah, it's me. He's like, well, I've been reading your newsletter since January. And I was like, well, wait right there. Wait right there. Don't move. I go running through. Dad, you gotta come here. Dad, you gotta see. Come here. You gotta see this. Dad, you gotta see it. He's like, what? There's this subscribe. The guy. He's like, come here. You gotta see this. So I took him over and I introduced him to my dad. He says, hey, I've been reading your son's material since January. My dad was kind of flabbergasted. He's like, he wasn't sure what to make of it. And at that point, he realized what I was doing. Making real connections with other people, just using the internet. And of course, it just so happened to manifest itself in the software aisle. It was the strangest thing that has ever happened to me, I think. But it helped solidify that point for my dad, that he realized I wasn't just geeking around. I was making connections, doing my best to help people. That's the community I guess I've surrounded myself with, despite what these people are saying down here. How's the commentary? It's like all over the map, right? It's a chat room. How many of you guys have participated in chat rooms before? So, many moons ago. So you know. In fact, IRC, which is what this is, it wasn't even around when I was chatting online. We had to use different software.
What's PANTS operating system?
What's that?
What's PANTS operating
That's a good
system?
question. I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea.
That maybe like Pantyhose.
It could very well be this. Honestly, a chat room is much like hundreds of people who talk to themselves. Well, not exactly an echo chamber, not quite, but almost, where they're just talking to themselves in the hopes that someone is listening. Someone is going to respond to the thing that I'm saying right now.
Flame bait.
But was that?
Like flame bait.
Yeah, kind of like flame baiting. In fact, that happens so often. So I don't really have a presentation, which is one of the reasons why I like distracting people with what's going on over here. It doesn't bother me too much because I take it as people are participating, and that's something, not nothing. This is and just to explain, yeah, I normally have a live webcam camera streaming the back of my head in my home office pretty much all the time. And I make it a point to say, even if I'm not at home, there are people here in the chat room. Hopefully most of them are not being embarrassed me here. Say hi from Ireland. Hey, where's it? Okay, here, let me throw them off. Where's everybody tuning in from in the chat room? Give it about 10 seconds, and all of a sudden it just get flooded and locked up just from all over the world. This is still a community. Is there anything happening? I mean, are they posting user-generated content? No, they're interacting or attempting to interact. People of all ages. Unfortunately, some of the adults that I know act like children, and children that I know sometimes act like adults. That's the internet. Question?
What do you think? I want to say that. Where do you think the social community is in our state as we communicate over the internet and by technology and online?
Okay, so to restate the question, where do I think that socializing is now that we communicate more on the internet than we do in person? I get more socialization now on the internet than I ever did in person. That's an absolute truth. I communicate with more people on a daily basis than, using this, the internet, or chat room, or Twitter, FriendFeed, MySpace, Facebook, you name it. I could never reach that many people on my own, like physically. I would be limited. And the only places I can go hang out locally are, that I could really meet people was potentially in groups, which I still do. I still join groups, just they're online, and they have threaded conversations. And we can share media that way, anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is. Absolutely does not matter. And the big thing where it's headed, and this is something I've become a big proponent about, or on, is being able to own yourself online. Because most people don't. Because it's not, remember, it's not your space, it's myspace.com. It's not your space, it's theirs. I always found that so ironic. MySpace, no, it's not. It's their MySpace, not yours. That's not you, it's a page. You don't own it. You have the ability to change things on a page, but you don't own it. You own yourself, right? I'd hope.
It's like an apartment.
It's almost like an apartment. There's a bit more, I guess, probably a lot more freedoms in being able to apply to a terms and conditions online, code of conduct, etc. Different. But in a way, yeah, I guess you're right. It's where people live, where their profile lives. And ultimately, we've got, where does your profile live? Where does it live? Does it live on your blog, in a podcast, on a MySpace page, Facebook profile? Where does it live? Where do you live online?
Google.
Google? That's kind of scary.
It unifies your disparate identities.
What's that?
It unifies your disparate identities.
What does? Google unifies your
sure.
disparate identities? Well, it's trying to. It's trying to. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is probably up to for another discussion. But it's going to be an important thing to think about. Most people will be fine with living in somebody else's space, but then what does that say about them online? And granted, Google's got everything on everybody. There's not a lot of lying you can do anymore. Not a lot of hiding you can do anymore. It's one thing you have to be responsible about inside any kind of community. Because you may think, oh, I'm just spouting off about a topic that I care passionately about. And suddenly then a future employer, future girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever, happens to Google your name and find something that they don't like. It's a great possibility. And there's a responsibility that every person who lives inside a community has, and that's a responsibility of self. But as a community leader, as a community organizer, it's more of a job to guide, to provide options and access, and to give everybody power. Not to rule, but to direct kindly, and give them the ability to make decisions for themselves. Give them the rope to hang themselves. Those communities tend to make it a little further. Granted, there are people who come inside a community. You've probably experienced this yourself. You know, you've been inside the forum for a while, and all of a sudden a new person comes in and they totally break all the rules. But they don't know what the rules are. Because they're unwritten rules. These mores, these values that you share as a community that just really aren't visible anywhere. That's why it's the importance of what they say, lurking. You should do that in a chat room too. Like you should do that in any community setting. And sometimes you have to deal with that over and over and over and over and over again. Especially inside a chat room, I guarantee. Every time I look at this thing, how many times is like a topic on video cards, games, or processors come up in this chat in the time that I've been standing up here? A lot. I know my community. It doesn't matter what the hell I'm talking about. Conversations are one. But they're here because I say other people like minds are here as well. Did I set it up to be a gaming community? No. But I get a lot of gamers who come and ask questions because they're looking for advice. Am I going to stop them from coming? No. Am I going to stop them from saying the things they want to say? No. It's as much theirs as it is mine. That's why I put it inside of a video. This experience, in many ways, transcends this experience. I know, it's totally, it sucks you in. In fact, it's worse. When I've had friends sit down in front of the computer where it's streaming, they're reading the chat room, they're responding. As soon as you sit in front of that chat room, they're going to start asking you questions. And they're not going to stop. And then you're not going to stop. And 3 hours later, you're going to get pulled away. It's that addictive, at least for a little while. It wears off quickly. But it's a fine example of sometimes if you just create it, people will come into it. And sometimes things get created and nobody comes. Well, then you might have to ask, well, why? Why are they not coming? In which case I'd roll back and say, well, where are you participating? If you're expecting people to come to you, where are you going to them? Community is a distributed idea, much like brand is today. In yesteryear, let's say pre-internet, pre-blogosphere, when a company wanted to send out a message, what did they do? Advertise, billboards, radio, TV, they controlled the message. In some cases, they controlled the media. I'm not going into some wacky conspiracy theory. But now, it's uncontrolled. A company no longer owns its brand. It's owned by whoever. It's pretty powerful, scary stuff. But it's also potentially a good thing, so long as transparency is in effect. The idea of transparency, being honest, direct, raw. You're not saying, oh, we don't have a problem. Yeah, you do. No, we don't have a, you're leaking. You have a problem. No, it's an imbalance. It's not a problem. It's a problem. No, it's not. Fine, whatever. I always tell, when I consult with businesses, they say, what if the community says bad things about us? I said, they're saying bad things about you already. What are you doing? Like, you can't stop them. The best you can do is say, yeah, we know there's a problem. We're working on it. Can we help one-on-one? Can we just talk? Can we have this dialogue, this conversation, this genuine conversation, this genuine connection between two people so that we can try to make this better? In some cases, that's enough. Like, oh, I was just complaining because I didn't think anybody would listen. And if you've ever received a flame email and responded to it, they were like really mad. You did this. And you responded and say, well, here's your reasoning. And then they respond back, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize someone was actually going to read this. Has anybody been through that before? One. It's funny, 2. Okay, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. As long as we've got some kind of common threads. Hopefully it's not just me. And it's going to come because people are going to have bad days. We've all had bad days. Some of us had bad, weeks, months, years, decades,
Lives.
lives. Yeah, I have a bad hair life. That's unfortunate. But people did get scared at the back of it. People have told me that I need to lose weight, that I need to gain weight, that I need to work out more, work out less, type more, type less, type faster, type slower. Who do you please? Inside a community, who do you please? Because you can't please everybody, right? Have you tried to please everybody? In anything you've done, anything, it's impossible to please everybody. Isn't it nice to see it in delay? Freaking
It's
me
like
out.
20, 30 seconds away.
Of course. Yeah. Another question?
This is just like way off with new subject, but what is your favorite version of Mac OS?
Way off the community subject. Well, as I said, I know my community, and they tend to talk about computers and technology. What's my favorite Mac?
No, your favorite version of Mac.
My favorite version of Mac.
Leopard, tiger.
Oh, sure. Operating system, I suppose the latest. That's
Snowman.
honest. Not out yet. Community is a very powerful thing, so long as it's not abused, and it can be abused. And how do you stem abuse in a community? Well, sometimes it is as simple as empowering people to do the things that they want to do, and giving them the ability to believe they have ownership in that community. This is what it is. It's that feeling of ownership. And that's when you know you have a healthy community. Because remember, you're going to have idiots come in, do something that's just kind of not right. The last thing you want is an administrator to contact you, or you to have to take care of yourself. The first thing you want is you want your community members to do something about it, or to say something about it. Because then they care about the community. They care enough. That is their home. That is their turf. And they may have to come to an administrator, or a moderator, or the owner, whoever, but they feel empowered because it's their turf. And when a community isn't taking care of its own, it's not a community. It's just not. That's why I find it kind of odd. I always find it odd when people seem to measure the worth of their podcast or their blog posts or independent productions based on how many comments they get. I don't think it's really about that. I always also find it kind of odd when people say, to me at least, they say, well, you know, I don't watch your videos. Okay. I didn't expect you would. I mean, I don't have that big of an ego to expect that everybody watches everything that I do all the time, but they know I do it. And that's good enough for me. That's good enough for my community. If people are, as far as I'm concerned, if people were to say, well, how would you describe Chris Pirillo? Geek would probably be thrown in there somewhere. Because I am. I sweat geekiness. I don't know what that really looks like. Hopefully that's not an evil mental image either. It doesn't smell bad, really. It's spotlight. Makeup. So, you know, I want to make sure, because I have a tendency to wax pathetic for a while, that nobody else has any specific questions, direct questions in relation to a topic at hand. Because, as I said, I'm more of a talker than a speaker. Yes?
Do you have anything to say about privacy?
Anything to say about privacy? In respect to personal privacy or in respect to...
Well,
Okay. It's a big issue, privacy. In relation to oneself, if you set your own boundaries and you know your own boundaries, then you're going to stick to them. It's when you inadvertently impede on somebody else's boundaries. For instance, the reason why this live video stream is pointed at me is because I don't have anybody else's permission to do that. Like, it's just me. And since this is, I own this, this is me. It's rather rude to shove a microphone in someone's face or a video camera in someone's face without explicit permission first, not after. I mean, it's not, unless you're like a hidden camera show or whatever, which probably isn't likely. But that you're infringing on someone else's privacy. And then at another level, even take it deeper. If you have a family, you know, some people are write about things that they do with their family. Well, is their family okay with that? Does their family own that, or does that person inside the family own that, or are they okay to share that information? They're sharing some potentially private details about themselves or their family online. And it may be the case that they are violating their family's privacy without realizing it necessarily, without understanding those boundaries. And in some cases, it gets taken to an extreme, where you have, let's say, just a husband-wife. One is very, very active online, the other one is not. The other one just doesn't understand it. The other one really, really does, and starts to, you know, put more of themselves out there, and the other person's just like, I don't get it, I don't get it, I don't get it. And you've created a rift. Because now, instead of just doing the things that they do, the things that they fully own, that is theirs, their experiences, just themselves, they've now owned somebody else's experiences as well. And if that other person isn't okay with it, then doing it is just, it's not right to do. Whether it's a family, friend, someone you don't know. It's also an issue of, like I said, trackability. Like when you post in a forum, or a Facebook profile, whatever, I mean, even if it's something as stupid as a tweet. Sorry, Twitter. I hate that word. Not Twitter, I just hate the word tweet in respect to Twitter. Don't ask me why, it's just something that bugs me. But let's say you post something just emotional, because that's what it is. Twitter's a great place to post what you're thinking before you even have a chance to think about it. Like, right? Like, it's all a bunch of emotional crybabies. Well, for some of them. So, maybe you post something out there that is going to get tracked back to you, whether it's potentially a political perspective, personal perspective, thought about a brand, maybe something that inadvertently gets traced back to your employer. I mean, all these risks that you take by being public and having that handle, having your name associated with who you are, can always come back and bite you. Always. And that's very much tied into privacy. But it's also something for each individual to decide for themselves. Anonymity is a pretty big deal online as well. And of course, everybody has that opportunity to do that. In some ways, being anonymous allows you to be a little more free in your perspectives, and granted, a hell of a lot more direct. Borderline, well, just, you should be thrown in prison for some of the things that you're saying. Not you directly, so I'm just saying, like, generally. But it's up to each individual to decide for themselves how much they want to let out. I am someone who likes, you know, trying new things, you know, online. Love signing up for new stuff, checking it out, seeing what makes my life better, more fun. But I refuse to sign up for BrightKite. And BrightKite is a service that basically allows you to tell, what's that? It's exactly. It's indeed. It's stalking. Perfect for stalkers. And all my friends were like, "Oh, I'm on BrightKite," and they're like posting their address. I'm like, "Dude, like, do you realize you're posting your home address?" Like, "Yeah, but nobody." I'm like, "Oh God." I mean, it's not like it's any information that you couldn't discover in the phone book. But still, knowing exactly where somebody is. I stream my whole life online, but that is just something I'm not going to do. I mean, if I'll tell people, hey, I'm going to be in this place or another if I want to let them know, if I want to let them in. But despite BrightKite saying no, you have to opt into it, I was like, obviously, the whole service is letting people know where you are. I ain't into that. That's my privacy. That's my boundary. You know, I don't want people to know where I am at any given time. I'll let them know when I want to let them in. That's my boundary. Some people will disrespect that. They'll get a hold of a home phone, a mobile phone, and bother me. That really upsets me because I did not give them permission. And I'm very rude to people who call me up that way, like extremely. And I don't care how old they are. They're going to learn a lesson. I'm an adult, and I know my boundaries. And you're going to learn real quick, and you're going to be put in your place. So as long as other people respect my privacy, I will continue to respect theirs. Did that answer your question? Or?
It did.
I'm sorry, another follow-up?
Yeah. Other than calls to your home phone number and so forth, have you had any other experiences of breach of privacy or?
Other than calls to the home phone number, I've had breach of privacy problems. I had a kid call my parents and say that I had a heart attack, and that really freaked them out. And that was just a little, it's pranky, but it was also way over the line, like just way over the line.
When did that happen?
doesn't matter. So beyond that, of course, I keep my actual address in Seattle very private. I've got a couple of mailboxes. Some people have showed up to mailboxes. Most likely, like, benign, not a big deal, but there are psychopaths out there, like, for real, like seriously, dude. I've been lucky in the sense that I do my best to take it in stride, and I realize that I'm putting myself out there, so it's kind of some of it's to be expected. But then I also expect a certain amount of mutual respect when it comes to this kind of matters.
Do you think this is an issue that's best handled via agreement?
Is it an issue best handled with agreement? Well, some people you just can't agree with. Some people are just like morons, like psychopathic morons, online or offline. I mean, this is the thing. People get, I'm sorry to offend anybody who's like, they get offended by swearing, but an asshole is an asshole is an asshole, whether you're online or offline. The chances are, if you're online, you're an asshole. Offline, you're just the same, just in a different way. But see, actually, physiologically speaking, there's a part of the brain that shuts down when you sit in front of the computer. I kid you not. You laugh. It's true. When I'm sitting here in front of this audience, one of you in here, I guarantee, thinks I'm a jerk, a moron. But you're not going to say it to you may say it to my face, but you may also say, oh, I enjoyed your presentation, okay. But then you get online, what a moron, because the empathetic center there in your brain shuts down, because you don't have me eye to eye, you don't have me in person, because you have that screen that you're staring at, the keyboard that you're typing on. Why do you think people are more idiotic online? Because they can't see the person they're communicating with. They don't realize what they're doing. Some people do. That's also why you get the problem, even with like online dating, where you're interacting with someone in a forum. They're awesome. They got a great sense of humor, funny. Like they're just on it. They know their stuff, and they're totally like all out there in the community. You meet them in real life, and you're like. Some people are different online. Some people are just the same. I'm lucky to fall in the latter category. Like, I'm the same. Or I attempt to be the same. I can't turn it on or off. Another question there, we'll move on to another.
Yeah, great points. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But it just seems like we're at a crossroads because the emergence of services like Brighttype and other things are starting to blossom. So the issues you're bringing up are right on, spot on. But do you have any other insight as to how that's all going to shake out?
Insight as to, I'm just going to sew it up, insight as to how all these services that potentially violate our privacy are going to shake out. It comes down to personal responsibility and education. Like it's one of the things I have to respect the iPhone for is if it broadcasts or attaches any kind of location-based information into whatever service you're using, it will ask you explicitly, do you want to allow this app to like do whatever with wherever you're located? You have the option to go in or out, and that's very powerful, and that's part of making the software work easier. But then you take it down a level, and I think we're along in our years, but then there's some who are younger who haven't quite developed that social responsibility and the full understanding that when you post something online, it's there forever. Like, forever. Like, there's no taking it back. There's no undoozies. That's it. And if you don't believe me, don't do it now. No, you can go to YouTube if you want. You can Google for my name and go to images in Google, and you'll find out what can't be erased from there. It wasn't bad. It was part of an art thing. Anyway, I'm not gonna go there. Suffice it to say, whatever you do online is going to be there forever. And certainly, I think part of that is as much as we teach youth. And by the way, my background is in English education, so that's about as far as I got specifically with other than dealing with children in the chat room every day. Instilling them with an understanding of what they're doing when they do the things that they do. And that's very powerful. It's extremely powerful education. Sometimes just knowing and explaining, like, when you do this, this could happen. Like, just and letting them understand that is sometimes very empowering, just to give them thought, like, I need to be a little more responsible with the things that I do, and so it does take not just adult supervision, but also just guidance, much like a community does. Next question.
I'm just looking at the conversation happening behind it. I'm kind of curious. There's a big one going on where one person seems to be arguing that you've sold out, that you don't care about your community, that if it doesn't monetize, you don't care.
Right.
Yet, you're here at Podcast AC, which is a free event. You're not a paid speaker. You probably have to pay your own way to get here from wherever you're from.
Seattle.
You know, this is an expense. You're going out of your way to see people who didn't pay a dime or donated, to teach them about what we do and about the community that's chatting right behind you.
Right. He's a fucktard.
Very much so.
Well, I don't know what to say.
Don't sugarcoat it.
I'm not going to sugarcoat
Tell
it.
me how you really feel. How much are you, how obligated are you to really understand the perception that your community seems to have of you and either defend what you really are or maybe speak to the people who are speaking out against you?
Okay.
What they're saying and what you're doing are two very opposite things.
And I'll try to. Okay. So what's the conversation generally trending to?
You've got one person who says you're selling out, another person who says no, you're not.
Right.
It's a pretty much two-person.
Right. McCain, Obama. You know,
Pretty
like
much.
you can't please them all. So to reiterate for the chat room, there's someone who believes that I've sold out, despite the fact that I've paid my own way here to an event that is pretty much nonprofit and helping people and discussing things. So yeah, I guess I really sold out, boy. Where's my? Did I get my check of 00? I'm not quite sure. Does that come in? Oh wait, no, wait. He must be a communist because he expects that you don't get paid for the things that you do, right?
Well, you have
I'm
the
assuming.
knowledge, so
So
much
even though
more.
I have knowledge and I'm imparting this wisdom and I have a job, but it's not okay to get paid for your job. He's a fucktard.
I was just curious, one session I was in yesterday mentioned in passing that he has pretty much decided to not moderate his forums anymore. And he mentioned that once you start moderating or dropping people or deleting posts, you become increasingly liable for any maybe that you missed, that was similar. And I just wondered if you moderate at all, or what your knowledge on that is.
The question, to reiterate, was moderation, and someone had recently decided to go with no moderation or moderation.
He decided to just
Let everything fly. I've gone both ways, and generally speaking, growth happens in many of the examples that I've seen. The growth happens more in less restrictive environments, less moderation. There comes a time where there does have to be moderation, come in. I found the better balance is to find community leaders. They will rise. Like you can't. It's very difficult to go out and find a community leader. You can't necessarily go out and hire one. Like it's either in them or it's not, and it's in them because they are involved in the community. So like as soon as I see someone active in the community or whatever, I'm like, I said, dude, you want to be empowered? Or I mean, I have different things going on, but to empower someone who's really active, they'll take care of it. Without moderation, in place, heavy moderation, they'll take care of the things that bubble and rise. Now, if there's no moderation, no moderators at all, kind of like no holds barred, it is what it is. I've seen that happen too, and it usually just devolves into an absolute cesspool. Like when left unchecked, it will just be a cesspool, and that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to go downhill. Like it's almost a guarantee. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. You need community leaders, not just people who want to be a community leader, but people who just are, who just do. I mean, it's not just a title. I mean, people get stripped of titles all the time. This is not just a title. I mean, no matter what the tool happens to be, whether it's a moderator in a forum or a discussion list or a moderator in a chat room, even down to getting a voice in the chat room so the chat room's moderated, it's fine. And by the way, not to do that sufficiently, I mean, it's not really an answer to the question, but
Well, it is. I'm just curious about you just mentioned liability issues.
for legal liability issues, you mean?
Yeah.
If his terms of service dictate that each person is responsible for their own content, then, legally, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak to that, but as long as the onus is on the content producer rather than the site owner, and again, I've got no cases to necessarily back that up, but the more responsibility that you say, hey, look, it's on you. Whatever you create, you own it, so if you get in trouble, they're coming after you. I have nothing to do with it. I just set up this, this is it. Back to how do I address the dissension in the ranks, which I'm sure is still going on. I'm sure there was some ponage. I'm sure some people were happy that I said that, other people weren't. Can't make everybody happy. You can't. And I've addressed it so many times in the past that it doesn't. You know, people are sensitive about that stuff. They say, you know what? Here, it's a big place. No one's got a gun to your head saying you got to come to where I am.
It just seems that some people, when they join in a particular social group or a particular following, they have their own expectation of what they're going to find there, and that it's never going to change, and that you're never going to either expand or add to it. I find that a lot in the music scene. I actually have to run several different sites for several different subgenres of one major genre of local music, because the guys with the pompadours won't talk to the guys in the cowboy hats who won't talk to the guys with the bandanas. It's just, it doesn't make any sense, and they're so very elitist. God forbid you come out here and do a free event, and then tomorrow do a sponsored event. There's such a big...
You know what? Honestly, that's where I count on my true community. And no, don't get me wrong. True community will call me when I've done. They will call me out when I've done something incorrect or improper. That's good. That when I've done something, when I've stepped out of line, when I've stepped over my line, my whatever it happens to be, says, you know, I think if we can do it this way, it'd probably be better. It's like, okay, great. Wisdom of my peers. That's fine. You're probably right. I wasn't thinking or whatever. And that's okay. It's when someone who I don't necessarily know, maybe I do know this person, has a personal beef with me, doesn't like the way I look, the fact that I'm not Leo Laporte, whatever. It's, you know, I get it all. I mean, I've lived through it all. I was around before Tech TV, and I'm certainly around long after.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, when you can't please everybody, that's just it. And so I could spend, okay, example. I was still in my formative years with the business back in 1996, 7. Been out for a few months. I was still living in with a roommate at the time, and I believe I was distributing this email. This is long before spam, by the way. And my list is like confirmed double opt-in. Wrote a book on email publishing. I'm not like one of those people. So I was going out to about 10,000 people at the time. And I wrote something. I like playing Switzerland. I like seeing both sides of the coin and talking about it. Very few times you're going to see me sit on, like people ask me all the time, Mac or PC? I said, well, I don't know. For what? Well, I don't know, for general. What do you want? Because it's not about me, it's about you. So I find it very difficult to take, frequently taking one side or the other. So I wrote something apparently, and this guy just went off on me. I mean, he went off like an email. And I was devastated. I was like, oh my God. Like, this really, whatever I did really hurt this person. And I didn't know how to respond, and I was just blown away. I was just hurting so much because I took it so personally. I still do take a lot of things personally, but that one really hit me hard. And the email, free, you know, people complain about free all the time. It's great. So the roommate came in, I remember he's eating his popcorn, chomping on, It's like, you know, hey Chris, what's up? This guy, you know, I sent out an email, and, you know, and this guy got mad, and he's chomping like, how many subscribers you got? I said, I don't know, I think at that time, actually, I think it was right around 40,000. So I don't know, 30, 40,000, it's like, how many people complain? Just this one guy. So then shut the fuck up. The guy's got a problem. He's one guy out of 40,000 people complained. And so you can't make everybody happy. And so I always resolve to, like, when I get a flame or someone doesn't like the way I'm doing something, I just smile back at them. They get really mad. They get so mad at me. It's like they spend all this time how dare you, blah, blah, blah. Wink. I spent all this time getting mad at you. How can you wink at me? Wink. You know, it's like, because what's it going to do? It's going to bring my day down because someone disagreed with me. I have to be flipped about it. Otherwise, I would never be able to make it through. There's so many people who are just going to not mesh and not mix. And so you just kind of have to accept it, you know? We live in a red state or a blue state, or I don't care what state we live in. We're just people. We're walking Venn diagrams. And sometimes one part of the diagram clashes with another. Hell, it happens inside of established relationships as well, which is almost even worse when you have a schism that exists within a community. You have the people who are just No, we do not need that form. No, we do need the form. No, we do not. No, we do. No, we don't. No, we do. No, we don't. What do you do? Well, okay, we're going to create the forum, and if you don't want to go, don't go! So you've done your best to bridge the gap, and as long as you take an approach, a very Switzerland-like approach to a problem, and trying to help and let it keep growing, hopefully, the people who don't like it, let them off it. There's always going to be those people, and I know I've made some really bad decisions in my life, like in relation to community stuff, a lot. But it doesn't necessarily stop me from trying something different, trying something new. And there are going to be people who like me, and there are going to be people who don't, and I'd rather spend the time with the people who do, because ultimately they're passing me positive energy, and they're the people I care. The people who don't care about me, why would I care about them? Did that kind of address the discussion topic? Okay. I always have to ask, by the way, because I'm like very good at dodging the answer, and I don't mean to. Okay, question?
Yes, sir. You mentioned about disclaimers with the cameras and video and stuff like that. Being in kind of like the video realm, I do shoot a lot of video. Candidly, someone's doing their thing on the computer, I'll kind of. So I mean, doing that without actually having to walk up to me, disrupt what I want to capture. How do you have the fine line? For that?
So the fine line for that is, well, first of all, you could carry disclaimer forms with you, and they're really simple. You can do a search for a simple disclaimer form if you get someone. Usually, and I think by the television rules, like you have to be like interviewing someone, like their face is right there, and they have to be speaking for them to be, to release, to have like a release form. Sweeping across a crowd is generally less invasive. It's more like walking up to someone saying, "Hey, what do you think about Podcast AZ?" Fine. Like, maybe they weren't supposed to be there that day. Maybe, they are in the witness protection program, or whatever it is. It's just invasion. It's like kicking someone in the nuts and saying, is it okay if I kick you in the nuts? And it's this violation. And it's even worse when it's live video, because there's no undo button. Like, then you can't take it back. And I know some people are fine with that, but for me, it's just like, that's a line I'm not going to cross. I don't mind when someone comes up to me and they do a camera and you're like, what's up? Like I'm in, I'm down. Some people aren't, and I'm very respectful of that. But if that's something that, and usually people are, the more sensitive people will be vocal about, but some won't, and they'll be very offended by it. So the onus is really on the person who's producing, that if they feel that there's some sensibilities that are a little off, then they should check. At a place like this, I think it's kind of a given that we either all have a camera, or video, or audio. Am I right? I mean, it is pod camp, right? So it's probably a given that this crowd is going to be cool versus like an insurance convention. I'm not saying that insurance people aren't cool. I'm just generally saying, is that the internet's? Oh, yes, I have an email. You can tweet me. I don't know, probably insurance agents. Is insurance agents in the crowd? Easy target, easy target. Yeah? Yeah? Questions? Yes?
What's your long-term goal for geeks.perillo?
What's my long-term...
And what's your thought on all these MySpace copycats?
What's my thoughts, my goal and direction on geeks.perillo.com? Thank you. I wouldn't have been able to bring it up myself. Well, because sometimes I get accused of doing that, and I don't like spending my time doing that. It was an experiment, honestly. I've had this video live thing going on for so long, and the chat room, of course, and people really wanted to get to know each other. In fact, there's been a couple people, like long before this chat room, this specific one existed, people who met in real life and got married from a chat room that I put together, which is really kind of cool. Geeks, and so anyway, I was, one weekend, just a few weeks ago, I guess, my blog was down, was having problems with the web host. I was just frustrated. I was like, I really want to put a place where, where something can happen, where all these people who are chatting can go. Because right now, I mean, they may be on YouTube, they may have MySpace, Twitter, whatever, all over the map. I'm like, let's try to give them, a place for identity. So when I started this, I just used my last name, Perillo. If you hadn't guessed that by now. So it just made sense to also use a subdomain. And I'm like, well, who are we? Well, we're just a bunch of geeks. Because it's just a label that I've never been bothered with. So I use Ning as the platform, just again, to experiment. Like, is this thing really all it's cracked up to be? Because I've messed with Drupal, obviously knee deep in WordPress MVU, and have had nightmares with every single one of them. And the first person to come up to me and say I could build that in Drupal is going to lose an eye. Dude, I swear. I mean, just like and I've got to speak at a Drupal conference in New Orleans in December, and I get to say this in front of a bunch of Drupal developers who make their living off of Drupal. So, you know, I created it with just an idea, like what's going to happen. So let's give some forums and blogs and photos. What can we put in here? What do geeks eat up? Well, let's let them do this and this and this, and then we can feature birthdays, and then we can do this, and we have ratings, and we can do this and this and this, and just keep piling these things on. It's kind of like this ice cream sundae of sorts. So it's just been an ongoing experiment, but more than anything, I don't really have a goal for it in mind. It's not exactly something that I'm going to build to have Facebook acquire it within the geek demographic. Is going to be very valuable in the coming years, and I plan on exiting this $4 million valuation. No, it's going to be around indefinitely, much like my last name. I'm not likely to not be a geek, so my plan is just to keep it going and growing in the hopes that people will be able to meet each other, potentially instead of just asking questions in the chat room and having it get lost in the shuffle. We can say, okay, if you got a question about the video cards, we've got a video card group. Or we don't, okay, if someone can start one up if they want to moderate it. Or you've got a general question, if you can't get it answered in the chat room, someone's not listening or whatever, post it to your profile over there. You got a podcast, great. Post it to your geeks profile so we can all see it and we all share it. So that way the people who go here also know that there are other geeks who are here who are also there. So they've got a chance to, not just exist here in this chat experience, which is what it was for a while, but also have a richer experience and a dynamic interaction that they can live, outside of this space and still share an affinity of we love technology, we're geeks. And it's not, and I left it open. I said, it doesn't really matter what you're a geek about because I've met knitting geeks. I've met, coffee geeks and all sort. A geek can be anything in my mind. It's just you're very passionate about what it is that you care about. And that, by the way, is very central to what I said in the beginning. It's got to be in your head, your mind, your heart, and your soul. It's your passion. And once you lose that, you lose everything. It doesn't matter how many people are in a community. If the leadership loses its passion, members are just going to... So there's no exit strategy for that particular thing other than just having fun and it's another place. The problem with all these new social networks is that they can appeal to a wide variety of people. Like a MySpace can appeal to everybody. Facebook can appeal to everybody in the sense that there's no real target for it versus a very targeted type of community, which tends to be more tightly focused in terms of the people who come, the demographic who arrive and who participate. At least sometimes, well, it depends on what it is. Sometimes it could be because they have a shared knowledge, a shared passion, a shared locale, whatever. So the way it's headed is that direction. Much like conferences have become a lot more tightly focused, rather than having big events and big shows. I mean, they still happen, but at smaller events, you tend to get more out of it, right? I mean, have you ever gone to a big convention and gotten lost in the hallways and no value out of it at all? But then you come to a smaller conference and the one-on-one interaction you get with people is just, the value is just through the roof because you have a chance to interact and you're not a face in the hallway, you're not lost in the crowd. You are, you're there, and you're living in this space for a little while and you have a chance to make these connections. And the communities online work much the same way. The smaller and the more tight-knit, the better off they are. So as much as they get bigger and bigger and bigger, I think there's much more power in distributed smaller communities. Does that give you enough of a perspective, or were you expecting something different?
You've been given these little contests where you're like, let's go for 7,000 now.
Sure.
I didn't know if you had some set goal in mind and then you're going for bling.
Oh, no. Okay. So he was saying, because I've been doing on Geeks, I've been doing promotions, like giving stuff away. Because see, I give stuff away, for free. God, I'm crazy. Yeah, I'm selling out, giving stuff away, boy. Anyway, so no, I do that just to to see if we can get a little more participation. I mean, certainly you want to reach a level at which the community is vibrant enough so that you don't have to necessarily babysit it, and that you've got enough activity so that it's flourishing and it's reproductive and it's able to grow. So you've got a base to go to that if you need help or if you need assistance or you need something, you know where to go, you know where to turn. Versus a forum that has 4 posts because nobody's active in it. And that's the problem. You'll go to a website, there's no activity. Well, what's the chances of you being active in a website that's not already active? Not very high because the chances of someone else being very active is not very high. So part of it is driving up membership goals, like saying, hey, well, when we reach this, let's do this. It's like, why not? It's in many ways, community building is much like playing a game, risk and reward. So for me, it was like, well, can we reach this? Well, let's see if we can give something away. I know someone over here, so at this point we can give this away, and if we hit that, so it just gives us something to look forward to. It's a game. It's the next goal. It's the next leveling up in World of Warcraft. It's that next level. It's always the next, and that's never going to stop for this particular thing. So the rug's never going to get pulled out. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Question?
How many cameras / camcorders do you have?
How many cameras / camcorders do I have? I don't know. I lost track, honestly. Maybe 3 or 4. Like digital cameras. Question?
So we were talking about growing your community, obviously for 10 members of geekstuff.com, but I think you're in a unique position compared to most people in this room where if you start a social network, 1,000 people are going to join, right? You'll get 10,000 much quicker than someone here. Do you have any thoughts on how someone who doesn't have an existing community would build their community?
Sure. And the question, to reiterate, was how does someone without an existing community grow things? Well, it all starts somewhere. It was something. And, leveraging your own assets is what you have to do anywhere, especially online. And sometimes those assets may exist off network. So, if I find something interesting on something that happened in the community, I'm going to tell people about it. Where I'm going to tell them, Twitter, friend feed, wherever. Raise awareness. And you do the same thing, but it all starts somewhere. How do you grow that? Sometimes it takes finding the right people. Who are the leaders in a particular group? If you were to think of 1 or 2 names, and you don't have to say it aloud because I don't want to hurt anybody's ego, who are the blog leaders here in, let's say, the Phoenix area, who, if there are any, if you had 1 or 2 names that would spring to mind, getting support or help or assistance from people who are already leading is a quick path to a greater audience. People who are going to be receptive to the things that you're doing. That's not always a guarantee. Not always a guarantee. And even with a wide variety of people, that's not always a guarantee that they're going to adopt the new thing that you're going to adopt. Going back to, I'm sorry, your name? Shauna's question, how she was saying she's got musicians who are over here and they're not talking to musicians over here, and they don't want to do new things, they just want to do their thing. It's the same way with tools. There's some people who live in forums, and as soon as you say, here, have a blog, they're like, I don't want a blog, I want a forum. Yeah, but it's the same thing, only you could do this. Yeah, but I don't want that, I want a forum. What's that?
I know what they will.
Yeah, they want to stick with what they got, what they know, what they want, that's it. And so sometimes even when you have a wide audience that has been used to, let's say, in my case, sending an email newsletter out, and I've got 100,000 people who read it when we send it out every day. I mean, there's a big disparity between that point and any other point that I may make anywhere else. And it usually boils down to what are most people comfortable in, where are they most comfortable. So I try to create an experience where I was like, well, let's see, if I had to build something, if I could build something with this tool, how would I make it? Well, I would make it so that you could, for better or for worse, create your own profile. Some people just have not quite mastered web design as much as they think they have. But create your own thing, do this, and do this. Let them go free reign on this stuff. And that's the kind of environment I wanted to create. And so people said, this is kind of like a MySpace meets Facebook. I'm like, well, I guess you're right. But that's not necessarily what I set out to do. But it was enough for them. They identified with that and they made that their own. So in some cases, either that community that you're attempting to address already has a place, which is usually more often the truth. And that's the biggest challenge is to migrate a community, even within its own structure. For example, something.Perillo.com, to migrate those people to something-else.Perillo.com is impossible. Think about taking it from an existing community, let's say there's an existing set of forums that have been active for so long that that's what people know, and try to get them to look at something new. You got your work cut out for you. That's tilting at windmills. But you can't change culture. And community is very much culture. And when people feel their culture changing, they're resistant, like completely. Sometimes adamantly, vocally. They don't like that. They come with a certain set of expectations. When those expectations aren't met, sometimes the people who I love the most are the people who complain, but they still stick around. I do. I love that. It's like, okay, great. You know, keep me on my toes. That's fine. Complain. But are you still watching? Are you still cool? Okay, complain all you want. It's the people who complain but don't really have any reason to complain, or they're just off and gone. It doesn't really matter.
So you like the constructive criticism?
Constructive criticism is very much welcome. I mean, and it should be accepted openly by any intelligent community owner. And more importantly, if you're in a position of power, I'm not a developer, which is a huge frustration of mine. But I am someone who has these other abilities and can make other things happen. When my community tells me, we wish we could do X, Y, and Z, then it's my job, like, I have to look at it and say, is that going to benefit everybody else? Is it going to benefit, is it worth the time that I would spend to do something that's, yes it is, and then I got to make it happen. Because that's what the community wants. Find someone to build it or make it happen. Come hook or, by hook or crook. So yeah, it's difficult to be in that position in listening to constructive criticism. Sometimes it's saying, I understand what you're saying, you can't do this right now. You can't do it. We can't do it. It's a limitation. I don't understand. And sometimes you're like, okay, cool. I just want to let you know it would be, so much easier. And in some cases, say, oh, well, try this instead. And they're like, oh, okay, I didn't know I could do that. And it usually comes through that kind of constructive feedback loop. Usually.
Personal policies that you have or you keep in place. That's one of the reasons why you want to implement personal policy against it.
Personal policy of
Yeah, I mean ethics and things like that.
ethics. My personal policy, I'm usually pretty laissez-faire. As long as someone's not posting something illegal or what would be considered, just wrong, I'm usually okay. As long as they own it, like 100%. Like if someone's posting someone else's content, I'm usually not too hot on that, just because of legalities and just knowing that, just own what you do. It's like I said earlier, own what you do. And, the more the community, understands that they should own what they do, and then, they become a better netizen, because of it. So those personal policies are generally, my line.
Do moderators that report that kind of stuff to you?
We have, there's certainly tools, and depending on which community, software, whatever software you're running has different types of tools. I mean, certainly people bring things to my attention all the time. Whether it's, I share my email address, like, with everybody. Is that still the mic? Yeah. Sorry, it's like, I see that the computer screensaver kicked in, so I have no idea if the chat kind of disappeared for a second. Did it? How long ago was it gone? Okay. Anyway.
Look it over it, right?
What's that?
Look it over it?
Yeah, I'm looking over it. What the hell? It's still there, so there may be a disconnect in the time. So, anyway, I've got some moderators. I've got a couple different sets of forums, actually. Some old school forums, Locker Gnome, a different crowd, completely different than the forums that I have at geeks.pro.com. And migrating the two is just like not going to happen. It was easier to start over again than it was to say, I'm building it here now, because you lose people. Every time you do that, you lose
think
people.
about whenever you decide to try some other kind of model.
Right. And it's tricky because I want to try new things all the time.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
dude, this is so, it's like, let's do this now. And everyone's like, no. It's like, but I want to. And sometimes they do anyway. Just full speed ahead. But yeah, I have moderators volunteer. Some, I'm able to pay for their other services that they've been able to help me with, and that's a great help.
Yeah.
Like, it's a huge help. For one of the newest community sites that I set up, I'm certainly looking for more active members to kind of empower them, like, because there's a lot of stuff that happens. I want to see more activity, and I haven't had a lot of time to spend as much attention with it as much as I want
asked to be a moderator on something. What would your advice be as a job that you want to know?
You were just asked to be a moderator on something. I hope you're not a very stressful person, because it is a very stressful position, because
Okay,
you are
that's what I wanna
suddenly,
know.
you will be thrust into a position of power. Sometimes that power can be abused. I'm not saying that you would abuse your power as a moderator, but you will be demonized by the community. You will be evil incarnate for the decisions that you make, that you are bestowed
I don't like
upon.
playing bad cop, so I'll probably say
You
no.
don't like to play bad cop?
Yeah,
Then don't be a
I'd probably say
moderator.
no.
If you cannot play bad cop,
Yeah.
get out of the game.
Okay.
Like, trust me, it's nasty. Yes?
You said before that you're not a good speaker, and normally people aren't good speakers supposed to know.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I've talked too long.
I was hoping it would go to so.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yes, question?
Are
I
you-
didn't
are-
realize that. I apologize. I'm so sorry.
Someone
Someone's got to tell me time or I'll talk forever.
I'd still be talking.
Yes.
It's dark out.
I was just thinking, are you worried that other people are gonna spam your site or use your site as
Yeah.
a means to try and distract people from?
They do. People spam my site all the time, whether it's a blog, a forum, or whatever.
I've seen URLs come up.
Oh yeah, even in the chat room, they'll spam it all the time, and that usually results in a ban. Like they'll do it once and that's it. Like what are they saying?
They just started talking about the good cop back.
It's true.
There it is.
It's a given.
So do you moderate to the
yeah,
point where you say if somebody's abusing the privilege, then
right.
they'll be thrown?
We'll get rid of it. Like immediately. Like I've given, depending on the member and like how active they've been in the community, I'll usually give them some leeway. We had someone who posted like they basically spammed their own social network, like just indirectly to an indiscriminate amount of groups, and it was just kind of over the line. Like I could accept it like to friends, that's fine, but like spamming to groups that are completely unrelated, that was tantamount to spam. And so they basically lost their account. Not my fault. It was a kid too, by the way. But adults do it all the time. Sometimes more kids than adults. Well, thanks everybody for staying. I'll answer as many questions. I'm here, so like I don't know. I do apologize. I don't want to take up your time. So.
Some of us here can want you to take over.
Right. So I'll answer questions. Yeah.
I work with Brightheads.
Oh, dude, I can't use it.
Privacy features are top-notch.
I know, but I still
You
something
can
about
have
it. Just
specific
don't.
locations be tried.
Oh, sorry.
I was thinking that too, like,
How are you?
I want to stream my Yeah, she just got here.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Wait, dude, you staying here? Like,
I came just to see you.
bullshit.
Not so much.
Really? What's going on? I haven't seen you for a while.
I borrowed a car just to come see
Hey, what happened to the blue lips?
you. Yeah. My car is in there. Yeah. It died. It was very sad. Sad.
So where you been? Like, I don't remember ages.
I have like.
Interesting.
Maybe we can talk about it when we're on the stage.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. So, all right, are you here? You're around?
Yeah.
All right.
I was
Hey,
Chris.
all right, cool. No, you okay? Hey. Hi.
Hello.
Howdy.
Oh my god.
How you doing?
Yeah.
I'm watching
doing
on
well.
Ustream quite a bit.
Cool. Good. Someone is.
Oh,
Thank
just
God.
like-
Actually,
No.
saw you one time you're doing a big April Fool's joke where you're fighting with Ponzi.
Oh yeah.
Made it sound like
I
it was
just
it was
watched-
getting out of control.
Are you sure that was the April Fool's joke or was it real? Because there's been real arguments that
No,
like.
I watched that video you threw the F-bomb on.
Oh yeah.
Ponzi. I just watched that and that was Halo.
Oh yeah. Wait
I
till you're
remember-
married.
I
You'll see
remember-
how hilarious it is.
Yeah.
I remember him. Oh, that one video. You like the one dude calling you. You said, "What's happening?" I said, "Shut up," and you started laughing like no other tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sure.
I love that video. Like he's like listen to a voice memo and he's like, "Wow, what the fuck is this guy doing?" And then you started cracking up.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I remember that video.
So were
Good
you streaming
shot.
too?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not, I was actually just watching it. I think I was devoiced. If I don't chat in there, enough to have
It was
voice.
voice.
Oh yeah.
The chat was voice.
I just tried to Ustream upstairs and another
But,
thing,
like-
I had to wait for the feedback.
Yeah, the
Oh.
Wi-Fi's
can I
a
just
little
try to
slow.
order the
Tell you if
videos?
you're doing it for internet.
What?
Can I say how to order the
I guess sure. I'm not doing anything with it.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
Hey guys!
Oh hey, yeah, cool. Yeah.
Is this on? Is there a mic on there?
Yeah, it's on the map.
So,
Hey guys, let's see, what are the questions? Yeah.
Oh,
I am iTouchMaster101.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank
See if I can
see that
give
sticker
you
on the
this.
back of it on your stream.
here to
On the what?
On the stream.
I am iTouchMaster101. I was in the chat like earlier this
It
morning.
used to be a mouse pad.
But then
So-
for some
It kept
reason
falling
he
off.
got
Yeah.
You know what? So I
Well,
had
he got banned on his laptop, so.
You did. You're the one that was
Yeah.
using it.
electrical tape.
Yeah, but I don't know, someone banned us for it, whatever, you banned us.
Well,
So,
it's better than just showing off.
I am 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
I'm 10.
Cool. So what handle do you use?
He's
to log
10.
or, like-
Be in the view.
Yeah, I'm probably still logging your rooms. I got
I'm
extra at home.
13.
Because I got my PC at home and this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Famous. Hi, kids. Yeah. Someone get this on YouTube immediately after we're done. But I am iTouchMaster101. No, that is not. That is not. Shush. That is not my brother, guys. He's just someone I met today. But
I'm a boy.
It kind of has to go that way.
see if I can get this good. Yeah, our badges, Blip TV, and then
I'm a boy.
podcast. Okay, here is, we are live on Chris Perillo, live.perillo.com, and here we'll, hello guys,
Bunny
yeah,
ears.
this is live.perillo.com. We are having a great time here at the PodCamp Arizona, and Chris is like,
I think they're done. I think I gotta shut down the stream.
Okay.
They're saying I have to shut down the stream if you want to say bye.
Okay, can I get on there just for a sec?
What's that? They're saying that. Who's?
Alright, hi guys, I'm
Yeah, well, I
the
don't
Eric
know.
Sham guy. You probably see me in the room.
someone just text you.
Just saying hi to all you guys. Hi, Omni Dragon.
How do you hook up the chat?
Eric
Yeah, how you doing? We got another you streamer. It's Jody Gannett.
I want to say hi.
So anyway,
Hi. Okay, well, I think Chris Perillo just got a text message saying that we should shut down the chat. So I don't know, he has to shut down this or whatever, but I am iTouchMaster101. This is our official badges, Blip TV, yeah. Finding it there, right there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I don't know, he just got a text from Fort or whatever, Kate, I don't know. But,
Gotta shut it down.
find me out on YouTube. Just type in iTouchMaster101.
Data alert's out.
So,
I signed it and gave it to Mom and
we
Duke.
are looking at the chat right now. Blah, blah, blah. Joey.
Hi, kids.
Alright, later guys.
Hi.
Well, we're not officially leaving yet because Chris Perillo moved. Chris is like, if you look, can you move?
Oh, there's Data Lore. Okay.
You can see the chat right there.
Yeah, I know.
That's odd. No, don't. We have to go because he just got a text message. Yeah, it's actually great to be on live.perillo.com though. Yeah. Bye guys.
Alright, later guys. Later Data Lore. Omni Dragon.
Bye
Alright,
guys.
we gotta get out of the. Okay, we can.
I have my 2 minutes of fame.
yes, there you go. All right. Yay.
Chris Perillo right there.
Yeah, thank you.
They don't know that's Chris Perillo.
Yeah, who
I
does
wanna get a
not
picture
know
of
Alright,
him?
wait.
And
Who's
Eric, with you and Eric before
Okay.
you leave.
You need to send me a
Who's leaving? You're not leaving.
They're leaving.
Oh.
Screenshot.
The
Chris and Jody.
Jody's here.
Jody.
Standing next to me.
Yeah, but do you know her personally?
Yes, I do know
Just
her
this annoying
personally.
girl that sidles up to
Hi.
him at various places.
Oh, sorry, I turned down the volume.
Hello. Wait, how do you know her? Is she like one of your mods or whatever?
No, she's just a friend. She used to stream a lot. She's a musician. You should get her album, Jody Gannett.
Yeah, lol.
You can see how
Everyone hasn't seen Jody forever.
I don't even know Jody.
Go meet her.
Yeah,
Go meet her. No, I'm saying no. I gotta shut it down.
Okay.
I got.
10 to 15 second lag.
guys.
Probably about.
Go you and Jody were on this screen.
Really?
Yeah.
About 15 seconds. Cool. Cool. All right. Let's go to.
Sure.
All right. Oh, good. All right.
Let's just give me a thumbs up.
No, I'm good.
I've tried
Alright.
coining a term with you.
Yeah.
Because you keep saying owned, pwned, and all that. Perillo.
Actually, I think someone.
I've been putting that on there.
Someone's done Perillo rolled or Perillo roll. How was it? Anyway, Perillo rolled instead of a Rick roll. Go for it. Coin it.
People down, you know?
You have to.
Yeah.
You got no choice. There's no wavering. There's absolutely no wavering at all.
Good deal.
So, all right, cool. I think I'm gonna hang out here. So,
Bye guys.
take care. Have fun.
Take care guys.
Bye.
See you guys later. He is
Yeah, actually,
signing out. Got my 3 minutes of fame on there. That's totally gonna be on YouTube within 10 minutes.
Oh, probably.